Hey guys, so today we're going to address some pest control issues with your garden. We're going to talk about some things that you can use, some things that are safe for vegetable plants, some things that are safe to be around your edibles. Some things may show up on the organic list, some things may be considered a little less organic, more in the chemical side. But I've used these for years. Some of them are new for me, some of them I'm trying for the first time. But I know they work. So the first thing we're going to talk about is having ants in your garden. We're going to talk about ant treatment. Show you that this active ingredient is Bifenthrin. It's hard to say. I get this high yield version. If you Google Bifenthrin, you'll find different types of brand names, and so this is just one that I use. This is Bifenthrin. This also it can be used in your yard as well. You can treat ant hills. I've treated ant hills with this and kind of taken the ant hills out pretty much in a day. It doesn't really take long to work, and I'm going to show you really quick how this works. It's going to take a little time to go over some things today, so just bear with me. And get the wheelbarrow over here. Very important to see how this works. What I generally do is you look on the packet and it'll tell you how much to use. I use a small cup. I'll either use a small cup if I'm treating an anthill. I use a small cup like this to treat the anthill and just kind of pour it on top. But these are granules. And the difference between granules and liquids, we're going to talk about that in a minute. How the applications affect what you're trying to treat. Let's get a little bit of this. So, topical on an anthill. So if I'm doing a topical on an anthill, all I'm going to do is just pour it on top of the anthill. Imagine this is the anthill sitting up in your yard, big red anthill just sitting in the middle of the grass. You just kind of spread it around the anthill. Now, what I like to do to make this effective, if you can, if it's possible, disturb the anthill, get the ants going, kind of get the ground up. That's what I do in the garden, because a lot of times in raised beds, the ants are sitting on a corner or something like that. You can dig down into it and you really pour that stuff down in there, get it down in there real good, and just leave it, because you got ants running all over the place. You don't want to be hanging around and getting, eaten up by ants and stuff like that either. So that's what I do. I disturb the hill, whatever they have going on. I put the bifenthrin down in it and come back. Next day, ants are gone. You won't even, I literally. Now, sometimes ants are smart. They'll just move to another place, continue the treatment. It's not going to work 100% every single time, but it does work. So let's talk about next the loopers. Funny story about loopers. Cucumbers is where you get pickle worms. Cucumber worms, sometimes cabbage loopers, different things like that. Now, in my mind, I'm probably the same as 50 to 75% of people that work in the yard, not very experienced with this stuff. But truth be known, what you need to know about loopers and pickle worms is that they come from moths. Typically you think of a worm coming from the ground, but what you have to know about loopers, cabbage loopers, pickle worms, cucumber worms, is they actually come from your plant. They're not produced by your plant. Don't get that mixed up. Moths lay eggs onto your plants, and that's where those little nymphs or loopers, worms, whatever come from. So what I've been working with is called Spinosad. Right there. Spinosad is the main chemical that's in it. Okay. So the thing that you want to do, because like I said, moths come through at night. This actually goes into a spray bottle, whatever. You just kind of mix it up. I think it takes like a tablespoon diluted in water, and that's what you can use for the sprayer. But what we said about moths, and the thing that you have to understand about moths is they come at night. So the treatment that you want to do is in the evening before the moths come in and lay the eggs. Simple. I never really thought about it before. You know, a lot of times I spray during the day or something like that after I see them. But after you see them, it's pretty much too late. So what you want to do is you want to spray in the evening time. Let's go over some applications on some plants. I'm going to look at the squash plant right here. The main thing you want to do with something like this is you want to coat the plant. So if you spray on the stems, spray on the leaves, and it will actively coat your plants. Change your sprayer if you need to do a little more direct or whatever. Not really hard to coat the plants, but something important, something you have to pay attention to. I'm going to coat these plants with. Now, a lot of times what I have, like I said, cucumbers, these are my squash plants. We're just using them for demonstrative purposes. I don't think nymphs or loopers really mess with squash that much, but you could have that issue. You will have that issue sometimes on tomatoes, not as much, but like I said, cucumbers, they would tear your cucumbers up. So the other thing we're going to address, since we're over here by the squash, we're going to talk about squash control. Let me grab this real quick. This is neem oil. Neem oil treats mites, whiteflies, but also aphids. So what you want to do, I do see some aphids actually on my squash today, so I want to get underneath those squash plants to put a little bit of this neem oil on them. Try to make sure I get underneath them. Spray underneath your leaves. Leaves is very important for treating certain types of pests that you may see attached to your plant on the bottom. I actually see a little kind of a mite kind of thing going on right now that might have been kind of getting at my squash. So we need to go ahead and get those done. Just take your time. Spray the plant. Coat the plant thoroughly. Get underneath. The stuff is safe, you know, for harvesting with like 24 to 48 hours. Wait 24 to 48 hours before you harvest. A lot of times with any of these things, I don't care whether they say that on the bottle or not, still wait. Don't try to take a vegetable off or a fruit off after you just finish spraying. That's practical thinking, but you know, this is something you may not even think about it. So that's basically it. We talked about those three things. We've talked about the Bifenthrin, which is the granules. We're talking about using for the ants. We've talked about the Spinosad, which helps with the loopers and worms and different things like that. And we've talked about this good old neem oil. You can find this Lowe's, your farm and garden place nearby, and just kind of work on it, man. You know, the main thing you don't want to do is let pests take over your garden. That is the most disheartening thing that can happen, and you want to do it early. You want to treat early so you're not fighting later on, because if you already have an infestation, a lot of times you're going to find yourself fighting behind what you're trying to treat, and you just don't want to get in that situation. So thanks for joining us today and watching the video and talking about some pests, different things like that. Let's get growing. Like I always say, subscribe, send your friends here to subscribe to the channel. We're going to be talking about things, you know, pertaining to your garden. We're going to talk about things that pertain to your yard, man, and that's what we're all about. So good seeing you guys, and we'll see you next time.